Welcome to the Funeral Channel Network podcast.
It is good to be here.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That is a very specific, maybe a slightly morbid welcome for a deep dive.
A little bit.
But stick with us, because today we are tackling a subject that is, it's simultaneously everywhere and nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about that piece of paper you get handed when you walk into a sanctuary, a chapel, or stand shivering at a graveside service. The program. The In-Loving Memory Guide.
It is such a fascinating topic because on the surface it seems purely functional.
Right, an itinerary.
Exactly. It's an itinerary, it's a list of names, it's just a piece of cardstock. But if you actually dig into the material, and we are drawing heavily today from the funeral program site, and their really comprehensive guide on crafting these tributes, you realize this document is doing some incredibly heavy lifting.
Heavy lifting, how so?
Psychologically, emotionally, and, historically.
Okay, I want to start with something, let's call it the elephant in the room. Or maybe the junk drawer in the room.
The junk drawer.
Yeah, you know that drawer everyone has, the one with the dead batteries, the rubber bands, the takeout menus.
The drawer of chaos. I know it well.
Right. But if you dig to the very back of that drawer, underneath the old mail, there's almost always a small stack of glossy paper.
Mm-hmm. Folded cardstock.
It's the programs from your grandmother's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
From a colleague who passed away maybe 3 years ago, from a neighbor. And here's the thing. You cannot throw them away.
No, you can't. It feels wrong.
I have tried. I have done the whole Marie Kondo thing. I hold it. It doesn't spark joy, obviously, but I cannot put it in the recycling bin. It feels, I don't know, like a betrayal.
That instinct, that physical inability to toss that piece of paper is exactly what we're unpacking today. Why does a list of hymns and a blurry photo become a sacred object?
It's so strange, isn't it? Because on paper, pun intended, it's just a schedule. But the source material, it suggests it's so much more.
It is. The funeral program site describes it as a memorial artifact, and I think that distinction is crucial.
An artifact.
Yes. Most people view these programs as disposable before the funeral. It's just logistics. But after the funeral, they undergo a kind of transmutation. They become keepsakes.
Memorial artifact.
Oh, wow.
That gives it so much more weight than just, brochure.
It should. The guide also describes it as a tangible expression of love. It's a physical anchor in a sea of emotion.
Okay.
And they outlined 3 essential purposes for this document that really frame our entire discussion today.
So it's not just a list of events.
Not at all. And if you are listening to this, maybe you are planning a service right now. And if you are, I'm so sorry for your loss. Or maybe you are just curious about human rituals. But understanding these 3 pillars, it really changes how you look at that piece of paper.
Okay, let's unpack those 3 pillars. Because I think most of us just think, I need a program so people know when to sit down and when to stand up. But you're saying it's deeper.
Much deeper. So the first pillar is guidance. We have to remember that a funeral is a time of emotional overwhelm. And we will get into the neuroscience of that in a bit. But basically, people are not thinking clearly.
Not at all.
They need structure. The program provides that.
Right. It's the, what do I do with my hands? Where do I look? What is happening next? Factor. It's like a security blanket.
Precisely. The second purpose is honor. This is the document's role in capturing the meaningful details and the values of the deceased. It's an identity document in a way. It proves that this person existed and that they mattered.
It's their story, condensed.
Right. And the third purpose is comfort. It serves as a reminder to the mourners that this service isn't just happening to them. It is intentional. It is rooted in love. It shows that care has been taken, even in the midst of chaos.
I love that. It's almost like the program is saying, we have got this. You just feel what you need to feel.
Exactly.
So, to you, the learner listening right now, whether you are in the thick of grief, planning a service, helping a friend, or you just want to understand the architecture of how we say goodbye, we're going to break down how a simple fold of paper becomes what the source calls a grief companion.
A grief companion. That is a beautiful way to put it. And it really is a companion. It holds your hand when no one else can.
So let's dive into that first segment, the psychology of structure. Why do we actually need a program? I mean, technically, the priest or the celebrant could just tell us what's happening, right? Hey, everyone, now we're going to sing Amazing Grace. Why do we need it in print?
Technically, yes, you could do it all verbally. But this goes back to the cognitive state of the audience. It's about what the brain can handle in that moment.
No.
The source material discusses this concept of the dual role. The program is functioning simultaneously as a roadmap and a memorial artifact.
Okay, roadmap. I like that.
You need the roadmap because grief physically changes how your brain processes information.
Okay, this is the part that I felt really validating when I was reading,
Yeah.
because I have been to funerals
Yeah.
where honestly, I felt dumb. Like I walked into the room and forgot how to act. I didn't know the rules.
You are not dumb. You are grieving. There is a concept in psychology called cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Right. When you are in a state of high emotional arousal, which a funeral inherently is, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function, planning, working memory, it essentially takes a back seat.
So it goes offline.
It's not fully offline, but it's suppressed. You are in a mild fight, flight, or freeze state.
So the brain is shouting danger, sadness, trauma,
Yeah.
and it just shuts down the part that understands complex instructions.
Exactly. Your working memory is compromised. You might hear the officiant say, next we will have a reading by Aunt Sarah, but
Yeah.
10 seconds later, you've completely forgotten.
Oh my gosh, yes. You look around, you feel lost. You wonder, did I miss it? Is it over? Should I be standing?
That's it. The source emphasizes that the program gently anchors attendees. It reduces that confusion. It lowers the cognitive load.
It reduces anxiety, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
Because funerals are anxious places.
Massive anxiety. And anxiety is the enemy of being present. If you are sitting there wondering, is this almost over? Or when is the music starting? Or did I miss the eulogy? You are not actually grieving.
No, you're managing.
You are managing logistics in your head. You become an air traffic controller instead of a mourner. The program outsources that executive function to the paper.
That is such a key insight.
Yeah.
It allows you to let go. You don't have to be the timekeeper because the paper is the timekeeper.
And that speaks to the intentionality mentioned in the guide. Because the program has this critical job to do, holding the hand of the mourner, every single element needs to be functional.
Not just decorative.
No. The source explicitly says nothing should be included just to fill space. If it's on the page, it needs to be there to either guide, honor, or comfort, no filler.
So it's not just about making it look pretty, it's about utility in a crisis.
Emotional utility, yes. It is a tool for survival in a very specific, very difficult environment.
Okay, so that's the why. Let's move to the physical interaction with this document. The first thing you see. Segment 2. The first impression. The front cover.
The front cover is arguably the most emotionally powerful real estate on the entire document.
That's a great way to put it. Emotionally powerful real estate.
It sets the tone before a single word is spoken. It is the face of the event.
And it starts with the text, the header. I've noticed this shifts a lot. Sometimes it says, in loving memory. Other times it's celebrating the life of. I used to think those were just interchangeable headers, like picking a font. But the source says there is a real nuance there.
There is a distinct nuance, and it acts as a signal to the guest. It's the first clue about the emotional landscape of the service.
Okay, so break that down. In loving memory.
In loving memory tends to signal a more traditional, reverent, perhaps more somber or reflective tone. It acknowledges the loss directly. It says, we are here to mourn.
It gives you permission to cry immediately.
Yes. It validates the sadness. On the other hand, celebrating the life sets an expectation of uplift.
Right. More stories, maybe some laughter.
It suggests we are going to focus on joy, on memories, on the victory of the life lived rather than the tragedy of the death.
But I have to ask, is celebrating the life sometimes just a euphemism? Are we just trying to avoid the sadness? Does it ever feel a little forced?
That is a very valid critique. Sometimes it can feel like toxic positivity, especially if the death was tragic or unexpected.
Yeah.
But the funeral program site is very clear on this. There is no universal rule. The choice has to be authentic.
Authentic, there's that word again.
It's the most important word. If the deceased was a quiet, solemn, very traditional person, celebrating the life with bright colors, and a party font might feel jarring or off-brand, it creates dissonance.
Right. If Uncle Bob was a stoic guy who hated parties, having a celebration of life with balloons on the cover feels, I don't know, disrespectful.
It feels inauthentic, and authenticity is the currency here.
Yeah.
It's about matching the personality of the deceased and, just as importantly, the family's current emotional state.
So it's for the family as much as for the person who died.
Absolutely. If the family is devastated and needs to wail, in loving memory supports that. If the family feels peace and wants to tell funny stories, celebrating the life supports that.
Okay, that makes sense. Authenticity. Now, let's talk about the name. This seems simple. Just put their name on the paper. But it's not that simple, is it?
It rarely is. You have the tension between legal identity and social identity.
Right, the birth certificate name
Here.
versus what everyone actually called them.
And the source advises consistency to avoid emotional discomfort.
Emotional discomfort is a strong phrase for a typo or a wrong name.
Yeah.
But I think I know what they mean.
Think about it. Let's say everyone knew the deceased as Chuck. He introduced himself as Chuck, signed his checks as Chuck, but the program says Charles Edward Smith III. For a split second, the attendee feels a disconnect. Am I at the right place? Is this the guy I knew?
It creates distance. It makes it feel like a legal proceeding rather than a gathering of friends. It feels formal and cold.
Exactly. Or you could have the reverse problem. If you use a nickname, but the family is very formal and always called him Charles, it might feel disrespectful to them.
So what's the solution?
The guide suggests that if you use the formal name, you might want to include the nickname in parentheses, Charles, Chuck, Smith, or vice versa. The key is consistency. Ensure the cover matches how they are referred to inside the program. You don't want the cover to say Charles and the obituary to suddenly start talking about Chuck. It's jarring.
Okay, and then there are the dates, the anchors in time.
The birth and death dates. This provides the historical context, the bookends of the life. But here is a critical warning from the source, and they are adamant about this. Verify the dates. Double check. Triple check.
Oh, I can imagine. A typo there is forever. It's printed on dozens, maybe hundreds of copies.
They note that errors here can be deeply distressing. Imagine the programs are printed, they're distributed, the service starts, and the mother of the deceased looks down and sees the wrong birth year.
Oh, no.
Or worse, the wrong death date.
That would be gut-wrenching. It's adding insult to injury.
It is a permanent record of an error during a moment of high sensitivity. And unlike a website, you can't just go in and edit the HTML. It's printed. It's in people's hands. It pulls you out of the moment of remembrance.
It becomes the story of the funeral. Remember when they got the date wrong?
Exactly. Instead of thinking about your son, you were thinking, I can't believe they got the date wrong.
High stakes, small details. That's the theme here.
It really is.
And we can't talk about the cover without talking about the photo, the visual element. The source calls this the most cherished element. But honestly, this is where I see the biggest failures.
It is the highest risk, highest reward area. We have all seen it. The uncanny valley of funeral photos.
The pixelated crop.
Yes. Someone took a group photo from a family BBQ in 2008, zoomed in 400% on the deceased's face, cropped out someone's shoulder, and printed it.
It's blurry. It's grainy. The lighting is bad.
It looks cheap. And I don't mean money cheap. I mean, it looks like an afterthought.
It conveys a lack of care. A low-quality image subconsciously tells the attendee, this was rushed. We didn't have time to find a good picture.
Whereas a crisp, high-resolution photo says, this person matters. We took the time. The choice of photo itself is a massive decision. Do you choose the formal portrait, the candid shot of them laughing?
Or the age question. Do you choose a picture from when they were young and vibrant, or a more recent one that reflects how everyone remembers them at the end?
That is the eternal debate. There's no right answer.
My grandmother was 94 when she died, but she hated pictures of herself after 80. She just refused. So we used a photo from when she was 60, in her prime.
And that is a perfectly valid choice. The guide suggests choosing a photo that reflects personality or passion. If she was vain about her appearance, and I use that word affectionately, then honoring that vanity is honoring her.
I never thought of it that way.
But they also offer an alternative that I think is important. Sometimes, for various reasons, a family might not want a photo of the deceased on the cover.
Maybe they were ill for a long time and the recent photos are painful.
Exactly. Or maybe there just aren't any good high-resolution photos available. It happens. In those cases, symbolic imagery works just as well.
Like landscapes or flowers.
Exactly. A sunset over their favorite lake, a specific flower they loved, a religious symbol. It can still convey meaning and beauty without the pressure of finding the perfect portrait. It avoids the risk of a bad photo by using a beautiful symbol instead.
Okay, so we've got the cover handled. We open the program. We turn the page. Usually on the inside left panel, we find the narrative.
The obituary.
The obituary.
Yeah.
Or the life summary. This is the written acknowledgement of a life lived. This is where we tell the story. I feel like this is the part where people get completely stuck. I call it the impossible task. How do you summarize 80 years of life in 3 paragraphs? It feels, it's just impossible.
And the source mentions this is often the most emotionally challenging yet meaningful part of the preparation.
Challenging because it feels so final.
It is final. You are writing the story. But the purpose here, according to the source, isn't just to write a biography. It provides context. You have to remember, not everyone at the funeral knows everything about the deceased.
That's a really good point.
A coworker might know all about their career, but nothing about their military service or their hidden love of gardening. The obituary bridges those gaps. It creates a shared understanding for everyone in the room.
It connects the dots for the audience.
Yeah.
But I struggle with what I call the resume trap.
The resume trap. Explain that.
Yeah, where you feel like you have to list every achievement. He went to elementary school here. He graduated from college in 1974. He worked at the mill for 40 years. He was a member of the Rotary Club. It reads like a police report or a LinkedIn profile. Yes, clinical, dry, a list of facts.
And it doesn't capture the person at all.
That is the trap. The source encourages shifting the focus from resume to essence.
Give me an example of that shift. How do you turn a resume into essence?
Okay, so the resume version is, John was a mechanic for 40 years and enjoyed baking.
Accurate, but dry. I don't feel anything.
Right. The essence version is, John's hands were rarely clean of grease, but on Sunday mornings, those same hands needed the most delicate sourdough bread his grandchildren had ever tasted.
Oh, wow. Okay. That. I can see him now. I can smell the bread and the motor oil.
Distinct difference, right. You don't need to list the name of the garage he worked at. You need to list the smell of the grease and the taste of the bread. That is what anchors the memory for the reader.
There is that great quote from the source. A heartfelt paragraph often resonates more than a lengthy list of achievements.
And that feels like permission, doesn't it?
It's permission to be a little more poetic and a little less bureaucratic. To be a storyteller. It is permission to be human. Authenticity wins over formality every time in this context. If they loved practical jokes, mention one. If they made the world's best lasagna, put that in. That is what anchors the memory.
But what about the check boxes? I mean, you still have to list the survivors, right? You can't skip that part.
You do. And the source provides a checklist for that. Full name, dates and places of birth and passing, family members, both surviving and predeceased. You want to make sure you don't leave anyone out. That is a minefield of its own.
Oh, the family politics of the obituary. Who gets listed first? Stepchildren versus biological children. Ex-spouses.
That is a whole other deep dive. But yes, the checklist ensures you cover the bases so you can spend your creative energy on the essence part, on the story.
So opposite the obituary, usually on the center panel, we get down to business, the functional core, as we were calling it, the order of service.
This brings us right back to that roadmap function we discussed at the start. This is the literal itinerary. Prelude, prayers, readings, eulogy, music, recessional.
And why does the layout of this matter? Can't we just list it 1, 2, 3, 4?
You can, but again, think about the anxiety. Think about the cognitive load. The source notes that this list allows attendees to remain present.
What does that mean exactly? Remain present.
It means if I know that after this song, there is a prayer, and then the eulogy, and then we are done, I can relax into the song. I can listen. If I don't know what's coming, I'm bracing myself the whole time.
You're wondering, how much longer do I have to hold it together?
Exactly. It's managing expectations, and it also prevents embarrassing moments. We have all been there. The music stops. Everyone thinks it's time to stand up, but actually there is another verse.
Or the priest pauses for a dramatic effect and someone starts clapping.
Oh, God, the accidental clap. The worst.
It's mortifying.
The program prevents the accidental clap. It says musical interlude, so you know to sit tight. And the design advice here is crucial. Keep it simple, uncluttered. You do not need exact timestamps.
Oh, that's good to know.
You don't need to say 10:05 a.m. opening prayer. That just adds pressure. You just need the sequence.
Right. No one is checking their watch to see if the eulogy went 2 minutes over.
We hope not. But yes, the sequence is what provides the safety and the structure.
Okay. Moving to the inside right panel. This is often where you see the poetry, the prayers, the quotes. We're calling this the soul of the program.
This section exists because, quite often when we are grieving, our own words fail us.
They really do.
We can't articulate what we are feeling. The pain is too big for our vocabulary. So we borrow words. We borrow from scripture, from poets, from song lyrics.
It's a crutch, but in the best possible way.
It's a bridge. It connects our individual pain to the universal human experience of loss. It says, someone else has felt this, and they found these words.
And the source talks about how to choose these, right?
Yes.
Yes.
The selection criteria is important. It can be religious, like a piece of scripture, or secular, like a poem, a famous quote, or even personal writings from the deceased. But it must align with the beliefs of the person who died. And ideally, Be inclusive enough for the audience to grasp. You don't want something so obscure that it alienates people.
And there was a fascinating point about the long-term impact of these quotes. This really stuck with me.
Yes, this was striking. The guide notes that attendees often report that the poem or, quote, printed in the program is the thing they remember most, long after the service has ended.
Really? More than the eulogy. That's surprising.
Often, yes, because of what I call the fridge effect.
The fridge effect?
You take the program home, you don't throw it out, you stick it on the fridge with a magnet, or you put it in your Bible or your daily planner. You see that quote every day for 6 months.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Do not stand at my grave and weep. Or the 23rd Psalm. It becomes a mantra. It offers comfort well beyond the funeral day. The eulogy might fade from memory, but that printed text is there day after day.
That puts a lot of pressure on picking a good quote.
Yeah.
But it also means you have this incredible opportunity to leave people with a really powerful, comforting thought.
Exactly. You are curating a message that will echo in their lives for months or even years.
Okay, flip it over. The back panel. Usually this is where we see the thank yous, the acknowledgments.
So this is the gratitude section. It's where the family formally thanks the attendees for coming, the clergy, the musicians, and very often the caregivers or hospice staff.
Is this really necessary? I mean, everyone knows the family is grateful. Does it need to be written down?
I think it does. It's a social contract. It's an important ritual. It acknowledges that the family didn't do this alone. It takes a village to mourn, just as it takes a village to live.
I like that.
And specifically, thanking the caregivers or hospice staff is a profound act of closure. It says, we saw what you did for our loved one in their final days. We honor that. It doesn't need to be a novel. A simple, sincere message suffices.
And this is also where we see names of people playing specific roles, like pallbearers.
Yes. Listing the pallbearers is a way of honoring those who are literally carrying the physical burden of the deceased. It is a high honor. In many traditions, being asked to carry the casket is the ultimate sign of respect and trust.
It's a heavy job, literally and figuratively.
And putting their names in print solidifies that bond. It's a public acknowledgement of their service.
But what about the people who can't carry it? My grandfather's best friends were all in their 80s. They couldn't lift a casket. It would have been dangerous.
That is where the honorary pallbearer comes in. The source emphasizes this as a crucial tool for inclusion.
I've seen this, but I wasn't always sure what it meant. I thought it was just a nice title.
It's so much more. It's a way to recognize significant individuals who, for whatever reason, maybe age, health, or just the limit on how many people can physically fit around a casket, can't serve in that active role.
So it's a way of including them in that inner circle.
It says you are part of this inner circle. You are carrying the weight of the memory, if not the weight of the body.
That is beautiful. It's inclusion without the back strain.
Exactly. And speaking of inclusion and personalization, the back panel or any extra space is often where you see the personal touches that transform the program from good to great.
Like military service records. That always seems so powerful.
Military service, organizational memberships, like if they were a Mason or an Elk or a sorority member.
Yeah.
These are deep identity markers. For a veteran, their service might be the defining pillar of their identity. Leaving that off would be a hole in the story.
And photo collages. I feel like photo collages are becoming huge.
Yeah.
They're on the back, inside, everywhere.
They're visual timelines.
No.
Seeing the deceased as a child, a parent, a grandparent, it reinforces the fullness of the life. And you said something earlier about standard versus unforgettable.
Right.
These specific elements, a personal note from a grandchild, a picture of their medals, a scan of their handwritten chili recipe, those are what make it unforgettable.
It stops being a template and starts being a biography, a scrapbook.
Precisely. It becomes uniquely theirs.
Now, we have talked about the content, the what, but we have to talk about the presentation, the how. Segment 7. The physical object. Design and layout. Because you can have the most beautiful words in the world, but if they are in 8-point Comic Sans on neon green paper, the vibe is wrong.
The vibe is definitely wrong. The container matters as much as the contents. It is not just what is included, but how it's presented. The source emphasizes typography and readability first.
Legibility seems obvious, but I guess people get carried away with fancy scripts. They want it to look formal.
They do. It's what I call the wedding script trap. You want it to look elegant and formal, so you pick a heavy, swirly, cursive script font. But if you set the entire obituary in that font,
No one can read it. It's impossible.
especially not the elderly attendees with failing eyesight, you are effectively locking them out of the story.
Hmm.
The advice is to use those decorative fonts only for headers in loving memory and use a clean, classic serif or sans serif font for the body text.
Give the eyes a break.
Yes. And speaking of giving the eyes a break, let's talk about breathing room.
White space.
White space. This is a core design concept, but it has a profound psychological effect in this context. If the page is crammed with text from edge to edge, if you tried to fit the entire biography in 10-point font with no margins, it feels claustrophobic.
It looks anxious. The page itself looks stressed out.
It feels anxious to read. White space allows the eye to rest. It improves what the source calls emotional readability.
Emotional readability. I like that.
It lets the content sink in. When you read a heavy sentence about their passing, you need a moment of visual silence before the next sentence. Whitespace provides that silence.
It's interesting how these design principles mirror the emotional needs of the mourner. We need space. We need clarity.
We do. And we need substance. The source talks about paper quality, the tactile element.
Oh, the tactile thing. We mentioned this in the intro, the difference between a flyer you toss and a keepsake you save.
Yes, there is a concept in consumer psychology called haptic perception. Basically, our brains equate weight with value.
Heavier is better.
Right. If you hand someone a flimsy, thin piece of copier paper, their brain instantly categorizes it as disposable, like a receipt or a flyer for a pizza place.
Trash.
Harsh, but yes. But if you print it on a heavier stock, an 80-pound or 100-pound cover stock, something that has rigidity, something that doesn't flop over when you hold it, your brain unconsciously registers it as something of value, something permanent.
It signals keepsake. The weight itself sends a message.
Correct. And color choice plays into this too. Soft, neutral is common, but again, if the person was vibrant and loud and loved bright colors, maybe the program should be too. But the paperweight, that is non-negotiable for a keepsake.
And let's run through the do not list. The common mistakes to avoid.
We covered some, but overcrowding is number one. Don't try to fit everything in. Low-quality images is number two. A pixelated, blurry photo on the cover is a real disservice to the memory.
Inconsistent names and dates. We talked about that.
And the biggest one, failing to proofread.
The second pair of eyes.
The funeral program site is emphatic about this. When you are grieving, you are often suffering from what you could call grief blindness.
You see what you expect to see, not what's actually there.
Exactly. You wrote the date. You know the date, so your brain skips over the fact that you typed 2024 instead of 2025. You need someone one step removed, a neighbor, a friend, the funeral director, to read it cold.
That is crucial advice. Don't proofread your own work when you're grieving.
Never do it alone. It's a recipe for disaster.
So the service ends, people go home, the potato salad is put away, segment 8, the afterlife of the program. What happens to this piece of paper now?
This is where the keepsake status is really tested and proven. Beyond the service, when the flowers fade and the casserole dishes are returned, the program remains. It becomes a historical record.
A historical record. That sounds so formal, so official.
But it is. Think about genealogy. In 50 years, your great-grandchildren might use that program to find out who your pallbearers were, to find out what your favorite song was. It freezes that moment in time. It captures who was there, what was said, and who the person was.
It's a primary source document for your family's history.
Absolutely. And families often rediscover them years later in memory boxes, like your junk drawer.
Exactly like my junk drawer.
And when you find them, they are a grief companion all over again. They transport you back, but usually with a softer lens. The sharp edges of the pain have worn off, and you find comfort in the preserved details.
Oh, look, they played his favorite Beatles song. You might have forgotten that detail, but the program remembered it for you.
It's like a time capsule. It holds the memories safe.
It really is.
And we should briefly mention cultural nuances here, too, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. The source notes that different cultures and faiths prioritize different elements.
Right. A Catholic service is going to have a very different program from a humanist one.
Completely. Some might want more scripture, some might want more personal storytelling. Some cultures include photos of the body in repose. Others find that taboo. But the goal is always the same. Respecting tradition while honoring individuality, the program is the vessel for that balance.
So, we are coming to the end of our deep dive here. Segment 9. Advice for the creator. Because if you are listening to this and you have to make one of these, it feels like a huge mountain to climb. You are sad, you are tired, and now you have to be a graphic designer and an editor.
It is a burden, and we shouldn't pretend it isn't. Designing this can be emotionally taxing. You are engaging deeply with the reality of the loss. Every time you type their name, every time you look at their picture, it hits you.
So what does the source advise? How do we survive the process?
Start early. If you can, do not leave it until the night before. Gather information gradually. Ask for help, delegate parts of it if you can, and take breaks. When it gets too heavy, step away. Go for a walk. The paper will be there when you get back.
And they mention it's okay to use templates. This isn't cheating.
Absolutely. Please use a template. You do not need to invent the wheel while you are grieving. Using a professional template or getting support from a funeral home doesn't make it less meaningful. It makes it manageable.
It frees you up to focus on the content.
It frees you up to focus on the words and the photos rather than the margins and the bleed lines and the technical stuff.
And finally, the battle between perfection and intention.
This is the most important takeaway for me and for anyone creating one of these. The goal is not perfection. You are not trying to win a design award. You are striving for intention.
Honoring the truth of a life lived and loved. That's what the source says.
Exactly. If the intention is there, if the love is on the page, no one is going to care if the margins are slightly off or if you used a comma instead of a semicolon. The program will do its job. It doesn't have to be technically flawless to be emotionally perfect.
That is such a relief to hear, because we put so much pressure on ourselves to get everything right in these situations.
The only way to get it wrong is to do it without heart.
So let's wrap this up. We have gone from a blank sheet of paper to a functional schedule, and finally to a lasting tribute. We've seen how this program guides us through the fog of grief, honors the person we lost, and provides comfort when we can't find the words ourselves.
It really is a guide through grief. It's a small thing that does a very, very big job.
Here is my final thought for you, the listener, and this is something to really chew on. We spend so much time curating our lives on social media or in our resumes.
Yep.
We curate our Instagram feeds to look perfect.
Yeah, huh?
But if you were to look at a program for a loved one, or getting a little dark here, even for yourself, what is the one tangible detail that would actually capture that life?
That is a provocative question.
It's not the job title. It's not the list of degrees. Is it a quote? Is it a blurry photo of you laughing so hard you were crying? Is it the fact that you were an honorary pallbearer for your best friend? What is the single element that would turn that piece of paper from a list of dates into a true grief companion?
That is the difference between a statistic and a story.
Exactly. Think about that. And maybe, just maybe, write it down somewhere so someone knows. Put it in the back of the junk drawer. They'll find it eventually.
Good advice.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thank you.
See you next time.